The Meet Me for Coffee podcast is on site this week at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference 2025 here in one of my favorite cities, Chicago. I'm excited to have a lot of speakers on the show this week, and we're going to be bringing some great content and hearing a lot of really great insights about what's going on in our industry and the broader supply chain. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening in today to the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. We are here at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference, and I'm excited to be joined by a couple of my first guests on the show. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, it's Kristin Reuter, and I am the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships with Expedite All.
All right, and I'm Mike Ernst, the President of Expedite All.
Okay, can you guys tell me a little bit for context about who Expedite All is?
Sure. Expedite All is the largest provider of small vehicle solutions in North America. So we've got over 11,000 sprinters, box trucks, and straight trucks in what we've coined as our closed-loop network of drivers that we can offer up through partnerships with our customers.
Awesome. And real quick, is this the first time you guys have attended this conference? Have you been before?
First time for me.
Okay.
This is a first for us here today, yeah.
That's exciting. This is, I think, my third time doing the podcast here, so I'm excited I got you guys here at your first time. We'll have to follow back up at the end of this and see what your thoughts were. So you talked about exclusive use trucks. I think you mentioned like box trucks and sprinters. And so naturally, one of the questions that I'm going to have is what's going on in this space from a high level trend? Because I know I saw some data recently that what a lot of people consider like a partial truckload. That space is really growing right now because we have shippers not wanting to use a full truck, but also not wanting maybe the transit time of more of an LTL environment. So I would love your guys' insights on what's been going on.
Yeah, sure. So it's really an emerging market, Samantha. So when you think about what we do, we are that space in between LTL and full truckload. Each have their purpose, each is a right fit for certain shipments, but really where we come into play is when somebody wants something faster, a no-touch solution. They don't want to put it in an LTL network, just the uncertainties, right? But their shipment isn't large enough to go pay for a full 53-footer. So really, where we've come in and coined the phrase STL, small truckload, we fit in between because you're going to get an exclusive use vehicle, so door to door, it's just your freight. Nobody else's freight goes in there, and there's no touches, there's no transfers, and we give that fastest ground option with the safety and security that nobody else's freight is touching yours.
I like that. I haven't heard the small truckload, STL instead of FTL, so we have a new term coming into the market. That's really cool. So I'd like to ask you too, and Kristin, maybe you can speak to this. We have a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time, we've been in more of this down freight market, as people call it, for a few years. So capacity has been plenty, and there's been some conversations around things aren't as urgent anymore. But obviously, you guys have customers every day with urgent needs. So what is driving some of the urgency that's still at play in the market, or who's really needing to utilize these STL shipment modes right now?
Sure, and I think it's two things, right? So by nature of our name, Expedite is what we do. Expedite All is the name of our company, right? Yeah. But it's also small truckload, right? So it is, as to Mike, in him saying that it's that space between full truckload and small truckload, or LTL rather, it's really finding the right sizing nature of how you're shipping a shipment, right? To Mike's point, if you don't need a full truckload, right, then you are going to find other avenues to move it on a smaller vehicle. So the sprinter vans, box trucks, and straight trucks in our network being another opportunity to move that freight, right sizing the network, right sizing the piece of equipment that you're moving that business on, right? And I would just say that there are accounts out there that are always looking for that expedited type of solution. So you think automotive, you think pharmaceutical, right? There's certain shippers out there that we're always looking for that type of a faster transit.
Yes. And in the STL space, have there been any more kind of emerging markets or industries that you've noticed kind of saying, hey, we like this new method of transportation?
What's interesting, there's a number of different industries you can say fit perfectly. Automotive, it's obvious. Pharmaceuticals, high value, things that are easily damageable. But even more so, if I can add to the earlier question, the market's really changing, I think, for a few different reasons. One, we know the Class A CDL driver is very difficult to find. The owner-operators, there's not as many of them because of the equipment costs, the regulatory compliance, the insurance costs, and they're starting to get pretty high. So that's one piece, right? Trying to find the right people to actually, run the bigger equipment. Two, you think about the Amazon effect. It's happening everywhere. People want to order it today, it ships today, and it's on my doorstep tomorrow or the next day. Supply chains kind of get in the same way. They want to be able to get the stuff out today and replenish whatever they need, whether it be for their production line, whether it be for their customers, point of sales, whatever that is. And then thirdly, you start to think about the fickleness just of the market in general, right? Our minds and our desires and our wants change so quickly. People don't want those large quantities, so they're actually ordering more regularly on smaller shipment sizes, which again falls right within our wheelhouse. So I can order 2-3 skids worth of product versus 3 months worth of product, and I don't overstock where I have to have a fire sale because I've got stuff people don't want, and I don't understock because I've got a faster service that can replenish my supplies, my inventory, or my shelves with these smaller vehicles that move more timely than a lot of the other modes.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're seeing the market shift, and all the data is telling us it's somewhere between about 17.5% to 19.5% calculated annual growth rate. It has been for the last 3 years, and we see the next 2 to 3 years being even more robust.
Yeah. And something you said there kind of made me think about, I've been reading about the trends in AI for procurement. So when you were talking about these global organizations or even these national organizations, they're procuring their products and their goods from, various vendors, but now they're starting to use AI to say like, hey, if we need to pivot real quickly and get something from somewhere else because we're going to have a line down situation or our vendor is short, they can make like these real fast decisions instantaneously. And so now they're not like making these massive inventory commitments and doing like these 3 and 6 month orders. They're able to just kind of pivot around, and they have AI making decisions on where they're pulling product from. But they were saying how that's going to be challenging for logistics teams now, because obviously we're being a lot more nimble with where we're pulling product from, and that can determine mode. Like, is this coming import now? Is it cross-border now? Is it sourced domestically? And how much do we need on a short notice? So I have to imagine that will eventually play into this as well. Is like shippers are getting very nimble with their decision making, and so we need this STL option now. We need more types of modes than just, a couple of options.
Yeah, agreed. And again, it's that emerging market to try to fill that void, fill that space. AI, it's a great way to consume data and help us get to the answers much more quickly. Sure. But to your point, for shippers, manufacturers, suppliers, their whole supply chain world is changing. It used to be you had rail, you had full truckload, you had LTL, and there was some expedite, right? But even the STL piece is really becoming powerful within the market in order to, do service the way you say you're going to service, pick it up on time, deliver it on time, with zero likelihood of damages, so that when you do start to tighten your supply chain, it doesn't all of a sudden implode because something got there and it was beat up, right? Yeah.
Kristin, I'm curious, have you guys seen growth in, we hear all about this growth in the North American trade. I get to moderate a panel here about cross-border trade, which is fun for me because I'm going to get educated because I haven't been too closely involved in that space the last couple of years. But have you guys seen a need for STL at all when it comes to borders, near the borders, Mexico or Canada? Is that also a growing space?
It is a growing space, and it is an offering that we have at Expedite All as well. So we do service cross-border into Canada, Canada back into the United States, cross-border into Mexico, Mexico into the United States, actually intra-Mexico as well. We have 4 offices in Mexico, and I'm going to get them wrong, Mike, so I'm going to tee it up to you, the 4 offices that we have in Mexico.
So we've got offices down in Mexico City, Querétaro, Monterrey, and Guadalajara. And they really maintain our partnerships down in Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico is that one border where we're going to have to offload and reload. We do have some vehicles that can come up and then go back, but most of them there's going to be an exchange at the border. But outside of that, everything else, it's a no-touch solution from origin to destination.
So you guys you do intra, so like Mexico to Mexico, and so do you see a lot of obviously global organizations where distribution and headquarters and stuff are in another country, but they actually have needs to move supply materials into their DCs or manufacturing sites intra-Mexico? You see all the above. The continued tariff discussions will kind of lead to where that goes and how it lands, but we do a lot of cross-border, we do a lot of intra, and quite frankly, we have a lot of customers that will actually not know how to do the intra lower 48. Sure. So they may be located, they need help getting supplies inside the United States, and we'll handle a lot of their business as well. Yeah. Okay, I don't like to talk about it too much, but I feel like I have to because it's something that gets brought up all the time, and we don't like it, but it's so prevalent. So I just want to ask. I hear about it in rail, I hear about it in FTL, but STL, new word to me. So I'm going to ask, how is cargo theft or just fraud in general kind of also driving maybe a preference toward this mode? Because it sounds like we're talking exclusive use vehicles, we're talking about only the space you need. Naturally, that makes me think that sounds more, secure or like a higher preference to people who have been exposed to theft or fraud. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing that?
You want to take it or you want me?
Well, so we have at Expedite a closed loop network. So we're exclusive to the providers that are within our network. So we have expectations of all of the drivers in our network to have certain insurance requirements. So then we're listed on the COI, so if there's any insurance changes, we're notified immediately.
Right.
We track and trace every single driver in our closed loop network 24/7, 365. So it's very different than like a macro point, right, where you're connecting the load with the driver's information, and sometimes their phone's not compliant with that, right? Mm-hmm. And so it mitigates those types of disconnections, right? So seeing that tracking 24/7, 365 internally is huge for us, and then we also pass that on to our clients.
Yes.
So I can say with certainty that we've never had a full theft in our environment ever. I'm not even going to knock on wood, but we've had like a robbery, one held up at gunpoint, right?
Yeah.
Not the same space,
no.
right? But there's things that we're doing. We act and feel much like an actual asset provider by way in which we conduct business with the providers that are in our closed loop network that bring the safety and certainty to the marketplace that we provide to our clients.
Yeah. And so are you hearing this more then from shippers? Because, every time you attend like a conference like this where there's sessions dedicated to the shippers, which is what a lot of today was, security, theft, fraud, it all gets brought up.
It's scary, and it's actually getting strategic, Samantha. It's not, as Kristin pointed or alluded to, the old smash and grab at a truck stop, as much as it is coordinated efforts to get inside, learn your customers, learn your data, and then just go out at one stroke and hit 30, 40, 50 different loads.
Yeah.
We've talked to a lot of our partners that have had that happen to them outside of our network. I want to be clear on that. But what we really bring, again, is that safety and security, that they're fully vetted. There's a set of standards that they have to maintain in order to stay within the network. We have the GPS track and trace 24/7, 365, and we've known these drivers for years. These aren't random drivers that you find off the load board or a new MC that popped up. It's very difficult to get into our network because when we say we're going to do what we're going to do, we do it very well. We pick it up on time, we deliver it on time, and again, we're really giving people time back in their day. Especially when you talk about some of the smaller vehicles. Let's talk about the sprinters specifically. They're not regulated by the FMCSA. So they don't have to have an MC number, they don't have to have a DOT number. How do you vet them?
Yeah.
Kristin seems very nice. But all I can do is check and see if she has insurance today. Other than that, I've got to kind of roll the dice a little bit on a gut feel. In our network, you've got access to roughly 7,000 sprinters that have been fully vetted, fully onboarded, and we know exactly where they are, who they are, what they've done, and they've got to, again, keep those standards. So it is a scary space, and you think about what they say, $35 billion worth of cargo theft reported last year. That's really scary. And then when you get to the smaller vehicles that are an optimal solution for the way the market's changing, without the proper provider, there's a lot of risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you guys are a part of this ecosystem and helping to improve that, because it is. We hear it at every conference and we talk about it, and it's not that. From a percentage-wise, I've heard it's like 1% of shipments might encounter fraud or theft. But the problem is that one shipment can be enough to cripple a business, or it can take a hit on quarterly profits. So we're talking really expensive oopsies when this happens, or accidents. So.
Well, and the thieves are getting even smart about what they take, right? We listened to a presentation earlier. If it's got a serial number on it, they don't want to take it because it's easy to track and trace. Yeah. So you even think about the types of commodities that are being targeted now. It's the high-end meats, the high-end fishes, alcohol. And you're right. When somebody goes in and attacks those type of things, if they've done it in a strategic manner where they're taking 30 to 50 loads at one time out of multiple different carriers or brokerages or something like that, all of a sudden they've stacked up a heck of a lot of stolen goods in a very quick strike.
So one of the things that we know, right, is that 85% of stolen loads come from a load board. And that's absolutely not what Expedite All is.
Correct.
So because we're only working with the exclusive network that we've cultivated of those 11,000 providers that are part of our closed loop network, we're never working with a load board, right? We're not working with a DAT board. We're not working with any of those other boards, not to throw shade at those boards, right? But that's where some of that theft can lie, right? And eliminating that from anything that has to do with our network allows us to bring some additional safety to the clients that we work with.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm going to have one more question for you here. Just like to open it up to you. Is there anything else that, like if I were to ask you, hey, what's an observation you've made or a piece of advice that we would leave listeners with? Anything come to mind?
So there's a lot that comes to mind. I think if I frame that a little bit differently, a couple of initiatives we've really sunken our teeth into here, and we will for the next 6 to 9 months, is the temperature controlled piece. We've got about 400 temperature control units in all 3 vehicles, but we've got an initiative to get that to 1,000 to 1,200. We see that as another emerging market within the niche, right? Because you've got refrigerated LTL, you've got refrigerated full truckload, but LTL doesn't take some products, and again, your shipment's too small for a 53-footer, so how do I right-size it? The other thing is freight forwarders are really excited about what we offer, so we continue to grow out our TSA driver counts. We'll have that up to about 1,000 by the end of the year, but I think within our space, those are probably the 2 most interesting things we're seeing change in the market. With the STL market alone, they're kind of the add-ons for the temp control and that need for the airport deliveries to fit that same kind of model that we're seeing the LTL and FTL shift into that STL, small truckload.
Sure. I love the call out for the refrigerated space. We've seen so much exciting progress in the last couple of years in saying, we're just done wasting all this space and like sending a few pallets of food or whatever at my pharmaceuticals and 53 feet over the road. So I've been well involved in the food logistics space throughout my brokerage career, and I'm excited to see it gaining more traction now where we start saying, hey, what if we found an STL solution for this instead of just wasting all of this space and ultimately money too. I mean, it's money thrown out the door, and we've accepted it in the refrigerated space as a cost of doing business that I don't think is necessary anymore. So that's
Samantha,
exciting.
as you think of people, don't forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, if anyone is interested to learn a little bit more about what you guys do, what's a great way to connect with you? Are you on LinkedIn? Is there a way they can contact you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Mike and I are both on LinkedIn. Expedite All is on LinkedIn. We can certainly drop some comments in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yes.
I've never said that before, but I feel like that would be an appropriate
You're on a
time to say
podcast
that,
now.
right?
You can say that.
We'll drop it in the show notes, guys. But yes, certainly LinkedIn is a place that you can find all of us as well.
Awesome.
And to add to that, obviously if you go to our website, there's actually a form submission. If you'd like somebody to reach out, just fill in a couple of blanks, let us know who you are, how to reach out to you, and that'll get to the sales team as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today, guys. Meet Me for Coffee is so excited to be here at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference 2025 here in Chicago. So thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Samantha, thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Samantha.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. We're recording on-site at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference this week. If you like this episode, be sure to check out our channels where we'll have multiple others published here this week with content from the show. And in just a couple of weeks, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, discussing where freight markets and economics meet. I hope you guys can meet us for coffee.